40 years ago, around this time, the family members of 10 Baha'i women received the tragic news that their daughters, mothers, sisters, and wives had been executed in the middle of the night. Their crime was their belief in the Baha'i faith. Their bodies were simply thrown into a makeshift morgue, essentially a room with air conditioning, exactly as they had been executed. Family members who had seen the bodies share that the mark of the noose around their neck was still visible, the blindfolds around their eyes, while the chadors, the full head-to-toe covering, which they had been forced to wear before execution, was still around them. The youngest of the women was 17, most of them in their 20s. Two of them were a mother and a daughter. In a final effort to force them to recant their faith, the executioner had made each woman watch the next woman's hanging. The news of their execution became worldwide. 10 young women, each of whom had dreams and aspirations of her own, were executed simply for believing in the principles of equality and justice. The 17-year-old girl among them, Mona Mahmoud Nejad, in a school essay she wrote months before imprisonment, and for which she was expelled from school and was interrogated about in prison, said, "Freedom is the most brilliant word among the radiant words existing in the world. Man has always been and will ever be asking for liberty. Why then has he been deprived of liberty? There have always been powerful and unjust individuals who, for the sake of their own interests, have resorted to all kinds of oppression and tyranny. Why don't you let me be free to express our goals in the community, to say who I am and what I want, and to reveal my religion to others?" Mona, a 17-year-old girl in a country like Iran, was speaking of these principles 40 years ago, and her speaking out courageously became the charges for which she was then executed. Today, as young women in Iran, Mona's age, face a similar fate, we have come here to say, indeed, our story is one. It has always been one. Today, in the struggles of Iranian women for gender equality, we hear the echoes of the injustice faced by these 10 women on that tragic night. We see women having to make the same choice, standing up for the principles of equality and justice with every effort possible. In the past few months, in preparation for this campaign, I have had the opportunity to speak to numerous family members of the 10 and hear their stories of the day the news broke out to them. The pain in their heart as they recount an event 40 years ago is strong enough to ache any heart today. And indeed, their story is not over. To their pain is added the pain of hundreds of families in Iran whose daughters are taken away from them for seeking nothing more than the freedom Mona spoke about in her essay. Now, 40 years after the execution of the 10 women, we have gathered here in the UK for a global event in their honor, which the Baha'i community has dedicated to all the women in Iran who continue to struggle for the cause of gender equality. The Iranian government may believe that by executing innocent individuals for their beliefs, it can silence them. But indeed, as this event shows today, their voices actually multiply and their legacy continues and becomes inspiration for millions. The Our Story is One campaign aims to show that our stories are inextricably linked regardless of faith and background, and that we will make our voices heard until our shared ideals are realized. Today, we make the wishes of Mona come true. Her message is being spread on radio and television around the world, her words echoing globally, shared in country after country, and heard in a room full of distinguished individuals such as yourselves who have come to celebrate her life and the lives of her other 9 community members who were executed with her.